you. You looking for a little help? A little coaching on time management and executive functioning? I'm the person. Here's the place. My name is Dr. Kortney Peagram, and I am the Ordinary Professor. Okay, so we start off the year, and a lot of times my clients are like, I want to work on time management, on executive functioning skills. I'm like, beautiful, perfect. First, we have to figure out what's holding you back. Okay, so you could be a student, a professional, an executive, a leader, a manager, entrepreneur. You can be really talented at what you do. You can be an exceptional manager, but you might struggle with time management. You might struggle with organizing tasks and managing multiple things at the same time. I'm not saying multitasking. I'm saying having multiple projects run at the same time. Project management. And so those are skills that are taught, and sometimes certificates, we would hope at school, or we hope you pick up some things at school, but oftentimes it's not. Like, I'm a professor, I know how it works, and what we're doing is we're assuming you know. And my students really struggle because you don't know what you don't know, and if you've never experienced it, it's really hard. So you kind of fumble and struggle through it. Now, from a professor to a consultant to a coach, and in all the different labels and work I do, I've understood that time management is critical, and oftentimes time management and executive functioning play hand in hand. So here's some things you need to know that can be helpful, right, as I coach you through this process. Take a piece of paper and a pen, and I want you to answer these questions. 1, what is holding you back? What is the hardest thing about time management? Now pause. Write down all those things and come back. So now that you're back with me, it could be lack of time. I don't even know where to start. There's too many things going on. Demands come to me and I'm in a supportive role, so I don't have like control. Other thing could be like lack of resources, lack of staff. I mean, you name it, like, right? So I'm not saying it's an excuse, but let's just call them excusable items. Okay. And so these excusable items need help because there's always time to plan. Even if it's 5 minutes a day, few minutes, right? Even if you're using AI. So during, what was it like last year? My busiest season, right? I had full projects going on. I was teaching full time. I had a really big client. I also was doing some harassment work. And then I have my ordinary like executive coaching clients. I was like my hands were in 10 different projects at the same time. And I was like, whew. I was working a lot. I was overworking. And here's the thing that I found. I used to take time in my car because I'd have to travel from client to client. I use my car as my think tank. And I would just record myself and I'd brain dump everything. Then I transcribe it, and if you feel comfortable, I throw it in ChatGPT. I say, organize this, create a task list, a timeline. So because I'm very skilled at like communicating and using my words, I would use voice memos and transcripts and throw it into ChatGPT and have them like, or her or they or AI organize my stuff so that I didn't have to stress about it. And then I take that task list and then I would use a system or a framework that worked for me so that I could plan it out. I'll get to my framework and my system after. So first of all, you have to feel like, okay, what's holding you back? If it's time, find the time. So it could be using creative ways, so use your brain, of finding time. So it could be right when you wake up. You don't like to write, just record yourself, okay? It could be in your car. It could be in between meetings. It doesn't have to be like the first thing in the morning, like I'm up at 5 a.m. and I am planning my day. That's not possible for a lot of us. I mean, and everyone has different seasons, so it couldn't be your season that mornings aren't your thing. So we're not here to shame. We're here to come with solutions. So what you're going to do is you're going to figure out what time of day is the best for you to kind of plan out your day. For me, it varies because, like I said, I have so many different work projects going on. Additionally, as you can see, I'm working from home. I sometimes work from home. I work at the office. I'm at a client's. So my days vary. But what is structured in my day and my calendar is the time I have to plan for the upcoming day, upcoming week, upcoming month, and then quarter. Now, here's what I do. I typically either Sunday night or Monday morning, I block out time. Why do I do it either Sunday or Monday? It depends what's going on. So with executive functioning skills, it's also the ability to be flexible and adaptable so that you can adapt to change as it comes up and it doesn't deregulate you. So for example, I knew that yesterday was one of the last days of the holiday season. Like I really didn't want to spend all my time like planning out my quarter. my week or my day. So I did it today, but I didn't do it first thing when I got to work. I had to first go through the data, emails, text messages, my inquiries, and then all that. And then I started organizing my tasks to figure out, okay, how do I organize my day? Then also I put time stamps on where do I want to spend my time today? How do I set myself up for success for the week? And what needs to be done immediately, at the end of the week, by the end of the month. So you need to create these deadlines for yourself, and it depends how your brain works. So every career has different timelines, and some people have to get things done by the hour, by the week, by the day. So here's what I would recommend. First of all, you figure out your big projects. So I'm going off a book called Getting It Done, which I used years ago, and I loved it. Anyone has an opinion about the book, but let's take the core concepts of the book. What you're going to do is, now that you answered the question of what's holding you back, right? We're going to say, okay, I challenge you. Take that piece of paper, rip it up, throw it away, boom, out of mind, out of sight. That will no longer hold you back, okay? Because we're going to try to figure out what systems work for you. Now, if you are someone that's super creative, right, and loves to have a lot of things going on and doesn't want to have a schedule, that's fantastic. But why don't we build a template for you, maybe not a schedule, so that you could follow, so you know what actually is coming up the pipeline, okay? So when I talk about coming up the pipeline, means you need to know if you have meetings, if you have appointments, if you have things that are due. Because if you don't, and you're just going through your task list every day, you're missing things. Additionally, things come up. If you're in an executive role, leadership role, even a supportive role, people sending you tasks, and you need to do something with it. You just can't put it on a task list. Because if you just put it on a task list, it just sits there. It needs an action item. So you need to move that task into an action item. Okay. So now that I kind of explained this, let me break it down. What you're going to do is you're going to take a piece of paper out or your computer, and you're going to write down your bigger projects. So it could be for work. It could be, let's say you have an ongoing year-long project. You have short-term things that need to be done. You're going to write everything down. And now this is the trick that I love. Okay, you're going to go through your email, text messages, notes, and write out everything that's coming out. You're doing an entire brain dump. Then you organize that brain dump. This usually takes about 30 to 45 minutes, depending on how extensive you're doing it. But the goal is to have everything kind of I like to call them buckets, right? Or categories where you know what's going on, and everything is in a bucket, okay? And then label that bucket. So for me, I'm going to give you an example. I have executive coaching, I have facilitation, I have teaching, I have podcasts, and social media. So those, I have a ton of buckets, but maybe 5, okay? And then also I have programs. So those are different because sometimes they're offshoot programs where I run for a year, I'm on a client, and then they actually have the client's name so that I organize. Now I put this, so I've used all systems. I've used Motion, Notion, I've used ClickUp, I've ClickDown, Todoist, you name it. And I have a Mac, and I'll tell you what I love the best, because those systems were great, and they were fancy. I love the bells and the whistles and the apps, and they all eventually fell through. Now, where I'm consistent in the past year, because I've been doing this, is I use my task list on my Mac, my notes on my computer, and I use my calendar like it's my Bible. I'm not even religious, but we all know what using it like a Bible. It's my sacred thing is my calendar. My anchor is my calendar. Everything in my calendar is labeled the same color as my buckets that I created and my task list. And every task that goes in the bucket has an assorted amount of time that I need to attend to it, and then that goes into my calendar. So my calendar is my anchor. It's what guides me. Now, I've learned over the past year that when your calendar looks like a rainbow, you have problems, meaning you don't have enough time to unwind, to do the things that you love, so for me, it could be a hot yoga or spending time with my kids. And also, I didn't have a lot of breaks. So you could be great at time management, but if you don't give yourself breaks, you're just going to burn out too. So just think about that. So the idea, to recap my thoughts, is first, write out everything down, brain dump, then break it down into categories or buckets, label those, put them a certain color, and then that color label create the same in your calendar and then add it to your calendar. So then what you're doing with your task list, right? You're moving into action items and due dates. This would take you to build the system, right? And so, all seriousness, probably a few hours. So if you're like, I do not have that time, but you know what you have time? 5 minutes a day. 5 minutes a day, maybe you just create one more label. Just start using it, right? I have actually, so this is another tip I have, in my task list, I have what I call brain dump. And throughout the day, I just dump in like stuff that comes in my head of like, oh, I have to go to the grocery store, or oh, I need to pay this bill. I have to send this email. And then like, because my brain is activated as I'm working, it's constantly reminding me of other things. So it's kind of my brain dump. I just throw that in the tasks, and then I go at the end of the day and I organize. So here's my next step. Once you figure out when you organize your day and how you plan it out, it will never go according to plan. So that's not the idea. The idea is to have some sort of structure, right? Some blueprint you're following. And then at the end of the day is the key, the piece of resistance. It's you go back and you see, where did it not work out? Like, I planned this and I went this way. What happened? Or I have so much things in my brain dump. Like, what was I doing? Was I really focused? Was I really busy? Was I being called and pulled away? So what you're doing is the moment of reflection. It's the moment of regulation. You're trying to figure out, am I achieving what I'm setting myself out to do, or am I just reacting to my environment? And those are key components to time management and executive functioning skills. So that might mean that you need to block out time for you. That might mean that you need to revise and figure out when is your high like ticket items like time frame. So that means like, when are you like, I love to write and I try to write every day. So what I do is I block out that time, and that's my high ticket item like of the day. I need to get this done regardless, right? Grading for me, since I've been a professor for over 15 years, it's like yesterday's, like, it's just so easy, right? Yesterday's news. So I can easily grade things. So I don't need my full attention because I have a rubric. It's easy. I can do it at the end of the day. Emails I do at the end of the day. I know this is going to like be really hard. I only check my email 6 to 8 times a day, which I would recommend as your coach to at least do 3 to 4 times a day. So I do a little more than I actually coach on. Because every time we go into our emails, it's like task activation, distraction 101. It's like so many things need our attention, and we just lose a lot of energy and productivity by looking at our email. There's a lot of research on that. So I'm just saying, I'm not perfect, but I would recommend 3 to 4 times. I actually do 6 to 8. But I reduced it from 50 times a day. I used to just be checking my email and reacting to everything. So the thing is, you have to figure out where you're spending your emotional energy, your productivity time, like the most productive, and how are you time tracking? Like, do you know what you're doing when you're doing? Last thing, but it's not least, but I really feel like this is important. How much time are you on your phone? You know what? I've worked with executives, CEOs from like newly professionals right out of college, and most people have the same problem. They come to a meeting with their phone, right? And when it doesn't apply to them, they're on their phone, they're on their computer. And I remember thinking, I know I'm interesting, like when I do training, but I'm not that interesting. Even when I teach and I'm a student, it's like just typing notes. I'm like, they're typing faster than I can speak. I'm definitely not listening to what I'm saying. And that's okay, but you have to understand that if you're having meetings, if you're having training, if you're doing these things and you're asking for people to interact and they're not present or they're not doing the things, that's a time waster. So figure out where you're spending your time. When you're asking your employees what they're doing and how they're spending their time, like, how are you asking them to show up? So those are critical things to think about executive functioning and time management. Now, what I want you to take away from this tutorial is 1, figure out your labels, your buckets, okay? And put everything in a bucket, right? It could even be, you could even divide your personal stuff from like each child. I do that. So each child has his own calendar, okay? Boom. And then you have to take your task list and make it into an action item. Lastly, I didn't touch upon this, but I find it's really important because I find my clients really stressed out. They make this one task list, like, let me find one that was really funny. Oh, I'm going to start my company. And that's I'm like, you're going to what? That's a task? No, that's not a task list. That's like maybe 2 or 3 buckets. You can't. So You have to break down your big ticket items into small, actionable task lists that are doable, right? Doing your taxes is not a task list. It's a bucket. Because think about this. When you're doing your taxes, you have to upload your documents. You have to check to make sure all your documents. You have to maybe upload receipts. You have to do all this thing. So that's what I want you to do. For example, scratchy nose. If you are, let's say, a student or you're an adult learner and you're taking a class or certificate, right? You can't write on your task list, do assignment. Which assignment? When is it due? What's happening? Like, right? You know, especially if it's a big assignment, you need to break it down. So the thing that we're doing is we're just throwing stuff on a wall. I'll be like, hope it sticks. Good luck. I'm doing great. But we're not. You have to break it down. Like, every item needs to be broken down. So for me, if I'm writing a blog right now. So let's look at my bucket. My bucket is time management. So that's the stuff I'm focused on this week. So then under that, I have task lists. I have my posts. I have my blogs, I have my tutorials, I have my worksheets, I have my articles. All these things are actual task lists. And even in my articles, I need to do research. Like, where am I pulling this from? Like, what? So think about that. You need to break down these task lists so they're less overwhelming. So actually, it would only take you, this is one rule of thumb I have in my coaching practice. When we break down our tasks, we actually look at a task and I have them figure out how much time it's going to take you. They're like, 2 hours. Too big. I don't know anyone that can, and people debate me, 2 hours that you can just sit here without checking your phone, going to the bathroom, being distracted, someone coming into your office, the phone ringing. 2 hours? Yeah, no. You're going to break it down into 4 or 6 segments. So maybe 4 segments of 30 minutes, right? That's a timer. It's funny how this happens, right? That's one of my timers telling me that I am done doing this tutorial. So I want to thank you for listening to me. I hope this is helpful. I love just teaching about people skills and all things that help us be more productive and better at work and better people. So my time is up because my timer went on and I have to move on to the next task list. But if you like what I have to share, please subscribe, join me, ask me questions. I'm here. I love to talk all things coaching, people skills, and give you tips and tools to make you successful. So good luck. Take care. Bye.